Welcome everyone. This is Doc Lab's latest live event, and this one's entitled 6 Business Growth Opportunities within eIDAS 2.0. My name is Nick Lambert. I'm the CEO of Doc Labs. And in this episode, we will be joined by return guest, Jamie Smith. So Jamie, that's obviously, it's a good sign that we've been going long enough that we can actually have return guests. So it's great to have you back on. You're the founder, of course, at Customer Futures and an expert on empowerment tech. And we'll come back to you in a sec, Jamie. We'll just kind of quickly run through the order, and then I can get well out of your way and just let everyone know some of the kind of ground rules for how we're going to run tonight. What I like about this title of this event and Jamie's approach generally is he's looking for the opportunity that's coming along in the eIDAS. A lot of people I've found look on it as a sense of dread, like there's this thing coming and we've got to figure out how we deal with it. And Jamie's approach, and we're talking about him being optimistic just before we got rolling here, but Jamie's approach is very much looking for the opportunity in this, because undoubtedly they will exist and this is a big opportunity. So looking forward to enabling Jamie to talk us all through that. The session itself will last up to about 1 hour, and it will feature a live presentation from Jamie, circa 25-30 minutes or so. And then we'll have a kind of Q&A. Well, I'll be asking Jamie some questions for kind of 10-15 minutes. And then we'll open up to the audience who will ask questions. Thank you also to the audience for joining us. If you could post your questions in the Riverside chat, the web app that you're watching this on. And if you would also be kind enough to just post now and let us know that you're out there, you're listening, and where you're listening from, that would be fantastic. It makes us believe that there's lots of people loving and engaging this content. So Jamie, without further ado, I'll pass over to you, and thank you very much for coming on.
You're very welcome, Nick. It's absolutely brilliant to be here and to talk more about digital wallets and personal AI, and how I think a lot of the opportunity is about framing. I think we're talking so much about digital wallets as a regulatory thing, as an identity thing, and I want to talk about where I think the opportunity is, where the growth opportunity is, and specifically what's happening now around AI agents. It's not, in everyone's feeds and in the news, everyone's starting to talk about AI agents, not just LLMs and AI, the big platforms. So I want to dig into how I think digital wallets and AI fit together, and specifically around the opportunity, because it's kind of dragging us away from digital wallets, and they're very, very detailed, and it's a really important part of what's going on in digital economy, but I think it's only part of it. So my name is Jamie Smith. I am the founder of Customer Futures, been working on personal data and customer data control really for about 10 or 15 years. I'm looking at it from lots of different perspectives, not just the technical one, but also the product and commercial one. Like, why will customers care? How are they going to use it? What's the experience going to be like? And why do businesses care? So I'm going to spend 25, 30 minutes talking about some of the problems we have with customer engagement today, why I think digital wallets and AI is going to be quite not just an evolution, but a revolution for businesses. And then we'll dig into those kind of growth opportunities that Nick mentioned at the beginning. So I want to start with a story. I got an email a while back from an organization. I think it might be a healthcare provider, but actually for the point of this, it doesn't really matter. It could be insurance, it could be pension, Enterprise Inc. And they sent me an email saying, you've got a message. We've got a message for you. It's a really important one. And I said, oh, fantastic. Let's read the message. And, buried in the email says, oh, well, we can't tell you what the message is because we don't trust email. So you've got to go to our website to log in to read the message there. We've got another inbox for you. Oh, okay, fine. So I then go to the website and I try and log in. And of course, I don't remember my username and password, and passkeys and so on isn't set up at that company. So I can't get in. And so they say, no problem, you can reset your password. So they send me, I go through the reset password pathway. And guess what? They send me an email back to the email that I had. And I was like, well, that's the one you didn't trust a minute ago. Okay, fine. So to make, doubly sure it's me, they also send me a one-time password to my SMS. So now I'm on my phone. I've got a one-time password with a six-digit code, which, by the way, took 2 or 3 minutes to come through. And in it is not only the code, but a link. And so I can click on the link to have the app experience. Fantastic. And so now I've opened up the app. And by the way, because I'm dealing with a regulated company. They may be slower with the releases. They've not done one for 3 months or 6 months. So I've got to download, the latest version. So now it's like 6 or 7 minutes for me to read this important message. I finally download the new version. I finally get in, and it says, great news. We've updated our privacy policy. I'm like, okay, this really sucks. You made me do all this dance, get onto the website, get the message, download the app. I'm now fully engaged as a customer, of course, and it's just been a bit of a waste of time. And just to kick in the face, they choose that moment to try and upsell me or cross-sell me of a product. And I'm laboring this story because this is an absolute nightmare. And I want you to imagine that you're in charge of customer engagement for, a multinational or a very large enterprise. This is the best it gets. Right? That's what customer engagement looks like. Emails, messages, websites, app. It's a nightmare. And my point about, and we'll get into digital wallets in a minute. My point about this is there are only really 4 channels. And the problem is that I've got so many of these organizations to interact with. On average, you have 150 companies you're dealing with. And maybe they may not all be regulated. It might be Spotify and Fitbit and, your bank, the several banks you deal with, but also your employer, your previous employers. You've got all these relationships. And if you're a household, you've got another 40 to deal with. It's a mess. And here's the thing. Every single one of these organizations is going through some kind of digital transformation. Before we mention AI, they're all going through digital transformation, improving that touch point. So they've got these 4 channels. And I'm on the customer side, got 150 of them plus 40. This is getting worse. From a customer, from a citizen perspective, personal data engagement, or rather customer engagement is getting more complicated. It's like a low-grade headache that we can't shake. And if you think about being in charge of customer engagement, emails and messages and, the SMS or even a WhatsApp, if you're exciting, it's all push, right? So they're pushing messages into channels we already have. And what do consumers do and customers do? We put up barriers, right? I don't know about you, but my SMS, list on my phone is like, plumber, pizza company, one-time password, spam. And so we've had to A, put up barriers, but B, we're moving out to other channels that are more personal, that are less polluted and less noisy. Same with email, right? The best email providers believe that their differentiator is spam detection, right? Dealing with the noise because of this push. But on the other side, websites and apps are pull. So the brands and the organizations say to come to our place where we trust it and we know who it is and we can get you to do the dance and log in and so on. Fill out the form, log in, mother's maiden name, all that stuff. Set the cookies, worry about session length and engagement, or download another app. And I'm laboring this because this is the best in class. And I think digital wallets, and in a minute as we'll talk about personal AI, I think it's going to be this kind of breakthrough new digital channel. And it's one that the individual is going to control, and it's going to be portable, it's going to be private, and it's going to be secure. Because once organizations can trust an endpoint that's outside the firewall, I think a lot of the attention, the messaging, the interactions can move to a new trusted channel that we've not had before. And we look at digital identity and digital identity wallets often as regulation or sovereignty or, in EU and eIDAS, a lot of it's about keeping big tech out of identity. But I think the missed opportunity is seeing digital wallets and specifically personal AI as a new channel. And let me explain what I mean by that. This is a end-to-end travel journey, and the details don't really matter. You kind of get the picture. This is courtesy of Lounge Up, which I found online. From inspiration, research, shop, prepare, go to the hotel, maybe I come back, fly home, share the experience and remember the memories and so on. What I want to call out on this picture is the number of tools that individuals are using. So this picture shows the tools that organizations use at all these touch points. But it's a mess, right? I've got Google Maps, travel guides, hotels, website, newspapers, brand.com, Airbnb, chatbots, Instagram, Facebook, email, messages. it's an absolute mess. It's my point about having all these different touch points, but each organization has their own four. And it's push, pull, jump, jump, jump. And if you speak to the hotel and you say, hey, you're building a 360-degree view of the customer, right? Because that's what we do in digital transformation. We build a customer data platform. We try and optimize and personalize, and we build a 360-degree view of the customer. These purple boxes is the 360-degree view. That's the most they can see, right? From maybe the guest portal or an app to check-in. If it's very sexy and exciting, maybe I've got my door key in a wallet. And if you really push the boundaries and the hotel connects with the airline API, then maybe I can see that the flight's delayed. Maybe I can be nudged towards doing some reviews after I get home. But that's it. That's best in class. Meanwhile, the rest of the journey is a nightmare. I've got an app to get to the airport, maybe the taxi, an app for the airport, an app for the airline, probably an app for the country, maybe a COVID certificate and, visas and passports and stuff. I might have an app for the taxi on the other side, and then probably got an app for the door key in the hotel, maybe even an app for the hotel, for the venue I'm going to a concert or something. It's just very messy, very clumsy, very broken. And I want to start thinking about the idea that if the digital wallet, maybe with an assistant wrapped over the top, could help me with those interactions, what might that look like? Well, on the day of travel, I could have touch points with the hotel, with the airline. I can have a digital wallet that allows me to present the right information at the right time. It's verified, it's me. I can do the selfie and the document match and present my boarding pass or hotel check-in or whatever. And I could say, hey, just check me in. Why can't the wallet, rather than just being transactional, be elevated? Why can't the wallet help me do things? Maybe we veer into, AI agents, which we'll come to in a minute. But from a digital wallet point of view, I've got this new trusted endpoint, and that can help me at different parts of the journey. But right now, on the day of travel, I could have it help me log in, check in, maybe even check out. But if I've got a digital endpoint that can be used at the day of travel, maybe I can nudge it backwards. Maybe I can help be part of research. Here's my preferences. I want window or aisle. I've got verifiable points with this airline or this travel company. Maybe on the other side, I can have my wallet handle my receipts. Maybe that's part of expenses. Maybe that's actually something about I want to be able to have different pots to know who spent what. So we can start to stretch this idea of a digital wallet, right? I said earlier, digital wallet, and especially in eIDAS, is so much of it is about sovereignty and about customer data control and about identity, maybe signing, e-signing and qualified signatures and so on. That's all great and fantastic. But my point is, if we can give a trusted endpoint for the customer, maybe it's on a device, maybe it's from a web portal, then we can engage customers in new ways, in a way that's not push and pull and awkward, that a trusted endpoint outside the company firewall where I can automate things too. If you think about the enterprises going through that digital transformation journey, what if I could do digital transformation on my side? What if I could automate and reduce the friction and improve data quality, all that kind of stuff? I think we're going to see customer automation in a whole new way when it happens on the customer side. And of course, once you get the full fat version, the skinny version's my check-in and door key. The full fat version says, well, look, I can have not only a digital wallet, but an AI that lives on my side, help me work out where I want to go, what maybe my group's preferences are, all the way through to the remember, the return, the review, and also sorting all those kind of costs and expenses and paying the bills and stuff. So I just want you to kind of soak this up a little bit. This is an important picture. If I take us out of travel and I think about the bank, right? The bank's customer journey is, I need a mortgage to I have a mortgage. That's the customer journey. But the real customer journey is, I think I need to move home, or I need some more space with the family, or I need to release some cash, whatever, or I need to rent in a new area, all the way through to I'm, sitting on garden furniture in the new house, drinking champagne or eating fish and chips or whatever. Like, that's the customer journey. And yet, from an organization perspective, we only see this narrow part of it. And if you flip it and start to imagine the customer journey from the individual's perspective, then we see all these new touch points. Then we can start to think about what digital trust, where identity shows up, but also other credentials, other preferences. And then once you start to automate, it doesn't need to be a full fat, clever Gen AI thing. It might just be some automation, if this, then that. Of course, we can start to add in an AI interface, and I can converse with my data and I can ask it to do things. That's coming. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But I want you just to think about customer journeys from the individual's perspective and how this can open up much more seamless journeys and much lower cost for organization. Anyone who reads customerfeatures.com regularly will know I bang on about this all the time. What if the best customer experience is absolutely no customer experience? Now, I don't mean that there should be no experience at all. What I mean is we can get rid of the bad friction. And bad friction is filling out forms, repetitive, manual, poor quality data experiences. A no experience should be just check me in. I don't have to work out and click the box and fish out the warranty number or get my credit card out. I want those things to be seamless. And that means organizations should be able to focus on engaging, positive, memorable, value-added moments in the experience. From a digital wallet and AI point of view, I want you to think about this endpoint for the customer, right? And think about how organizations are deploying identity and how organizations are deploying AI at the moment. So I've got two axes here, customers up one side and businesses down the bottom. So today, the enterprise has a human agent, dealing with problems and sales and interacting with the customer. And in this case, the customer might call in, might use a chat interface, but it's going to a human queue, right? You're queuing on the IVR, right? Press 2 for shoot me now. You're in a human queue, you deal with a real human, maybe even if it's an email queue or a chat. And so that's where contact centers and messaging, and that's they have to prove it's you. And so they ask me for my inside leg measurement and my mother's maiden name and my cat's birthday and stuff. What's happening now is that these are becoming, the digital transformation's happening here. It's fantastic. And so the contact center is being digitized, it's being automated, but it's also moving to people's homes. So I can answer calls, move the contact center all around the world. Fine. We're now starting to see robots, agents, automated contact centers, AI contact centers handle human queues. So still the human customer, but we're dealing with a robotic or an automated contact center agent, right? You've all had the live chat, and I ask it 6 questions. It says, "I'm sorry, I don't understand." You have to ask it again, and says, "I'm sorry, I have to hand you off to a live person." And we go around the loop. So best case, these chatbots and contact centers are getting better. It's gone from rule-based chatbots to kind of AI-powered. There's a really, really smart platform that is now able to, it's called blend.ai, and it can handle 100,000 contact center calls, and it does it with an AI automated voice in any language you want, right? So they're automating the back end, but I'm still on the phone. My idea, contention, argument is that what happens if the customers get their own AI too? Why can't my AI agent, verified by a digital wallet, with a credential that's said, yeah, they're acting on my authority, that the organization can approve and authorize and verify, why can't that sit in the queue for me? And this picture here is about saying this is not just kind of interacting with the back end. I'm dealing with a human inside the business, right? Google did this a couple of years ago. I set Google to call the hairdresser and book the appointment for me, right? It's getting pretty real, and it's improving month on month on month. Why can't I have a voice assistant sit in the queue for me or handle the chatbot? It's getting so good. I was doing some research into this. There's, even a report on like the top 10 AI voice assistants for you. It hit the news late last year that, you can now take a 3-second snippet of your voice, and we can now clone your voice. It's pretty good. For banks, they're going to have a few more, checks and verification steps to get in. But for a lot of organizations, it's going to sound like you. In fact, those 3-second snippets are being used to, do some frankly terrifying stuff. There's stories in the US last year where a mother and father got a phone call from the daughter saying, "I've been kidnapped. You're going to wire $10,000 right now." it was a scammer with an AI assistant. My point being, this is commoditizing really quickly. And so now we get agent to agent. What if my agent, using a digital wallet with my verified data, can interact with the agent that's queuing on the other side, right? There is work being done right now on agent to agent protocols, and that's a good thing. We need to think about what those new pipes are going to be. But actually, agent to agent could be an AI agent sending off a well-structured blob of data from digital wallet to digital wallet. It might be through an API that already exists inside the organization, pumping it straight into Salesforce, Siebel, Twilio, other third-party platforms that act for customer engagement on behalf of the organization. My AI agent can interact with the organization's AI agent. And again, this is coming. So Claude have launched Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which has got computer use mode. So, it can click and browse and scroll and fill out forms on the browser for you. OpenAI just launched Operator, which can do similar things. And Google launched Project Mariner. What's interesting about that is it only works if the browser is open, right? So the individual can see what the browser is doing. If you switch context, if you switch away from the browser, the Google's AI agent won't act because guess what? It can't see what you're doing. So we have a whole set of questions about governance, liability, who's acting on whose behalf, which is where I think digital wallets is really going to step up. I think this is an opportunity for eIDAS, but digital wallets more generally, and digital identity wallets specifically. This is an idea whose time has come. We need the ability to delegate authority to other parties who can act on our behalf. There's a delicious irony that, regulated companies like banks and telcos and airlines and, they've spent the last 20 years putting up barriers to say, is this a bot? Do I need to screen them out, right? Bot is, you go on the bad list, the naughty step. But actually, when my AI agent shows up, or it's a browser that's being controlled by my AI agent, how do we know in whose interest it's acting, and how do we know it really is from a source we trust? There's going to be 20 Jamies showing up at the door of the bank. So they're going to get whiplash. All these banks and telcos and regulated entities, they're going to have to do a complete 180. Is this a good bot, Jamie's bot with a delegation authority to act on his behalf, or is it one of the bad ones? Dave Birch and Kirsty Rutter, looking at banking, looking at AI on the side of the customer, they've written extensively about CustoBot, right? CRM becomes CustoBot relationship management because I can use the key management inside my digital wallet to connect directly to the bank systems or the CRM. So we can have this new peer-to-peer trusted relationship in a way that's not been possible before. Now, 2 years ago, Gartner went and asked some CEOs, I think 400 of them, how soon might machine customers come along? And they describe machine customers as, automated interactions from customers. So at the thin end, that might be, a printer ordering its own ink. A bit more advanced, you might say, it's a car ordering its own service. But it also included autonomous agents and autonomous assistants on the side of the customer. The thing that really was interesting here is, this is only 2 years ago. They said that, half of them said 2030. That's going to be when there's a significant part of our revenue, 20+% of our revenue will come in. Half of them said 2030. It's a bit like saying, when will flying taxis happen? In 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever. The thing that's interesting is that a fifth of them, 22%, said it will happen this year. So this is only 2 years ago, and we know things are speeding up. But this is the point that Gartner showed up. And, Gartner has a mixed reputation for hype cycle and actually calling things. But read this sentence and let it soak. So if this is right, whenever it happens, this will suggest a market shift roughly twice as large and twice as fast as the arrival of e-commerce. So I come to think of this as kind of A-commerce. This is about agent commerce. We had M-commerce with mobiles, e-commerce online, and I think this is going to be A-commerce with agents. And what is even more mind-blowing is that there's regulation in the US already that accounts for this. If you think about digital signatures and e-signing, a guy called Daza Greenwood, who I strongly recommend you're following or paying attention to at MIT, helped draft legislation that already puts this in place for 52 states. There's a legal foundation for attribution of the acts of autonomous agents, the UETA. My point is the CEOs are looking at it. From a regulatory point of view, we've got the frameworks for it. The AI platforms are moving towards it. This is the opportunity for digital wallets to step in. Without credentials, wallets, governance, ecosystems, all the stuff we've been working on in the decentralized identity world, this is the layer of trust that's been missing. AI agents are not going to be trusted without wallets. Organizations are not going to adopt them, and we're going to have even more fraud without it. So let's jump to the implications and what I think are the exciting part of where things are going. I think it's very, from what I've said already, I think it's clear that the best customer experience is going to be no customer experience. We're going to have digital transformation and automation on the individual side, on the patient side, on the athlete side, in a way we've never had before. And the reason we can have that is we've now got digital trust. I think this idea of a new trusted endpoint outside the firewall is a really big deal, right? We now have a new direct connection to the customer. We have the ability to, yes, send messages, yes, request information, have this transactional thing. But also it means if you wanted to, some organizations like banks and pension providers, they got to do KYC, they've got to store data for 7 years. Fine. But lots of organizations, they don't really want to be storing that data. It's a liability for them. If they had this connection to the individual, they could just request the data, delete it, as long as I've still got this connection, this pipe. And then when I need it again, I ask you again. They can come and ask me for my latest address. They could ask me for my latest set of preferences, rather than guessing, right? Customer trust is going to go up. Liability is going to go down. Conversion is going to improve. I think this idea of radical trust is really being discounted or not accounted for yet. And this idea that the customer becomes an API, right? There's a couple of really good case studies in the market where, very large company 1 is integrating with very large company 2. And it might take 2 years and $10 million to integrate in the back end, right? A big rat's nest of APIs and whiteboard arguments about day, month, year, or month, day, year. Actually, rather than integrating in the back end, why do we integrate in the front end? Why don't we call the customer API, give them some credential data, allow the individual to show up at organization 2, and then be able to share it. So, for example, banks, they're building new, they're building new banking platforms, APIs front to back. They can build these new brands, these new banks, but they've got to migrate all the customers, and they have a conversion problem. Well, guess what? Give the customer the data and let them show up at the new place, and you have one tap onboarding. So the customer becomes an API. I think this idea of a fifth channel is what I want to leave you with. We've had digital transformation V1, right? Process automation, predictive analytics. Insurance companies have had machine learning and AI for decades. Let's not kid ourselves. Anyone working in AI for a while said this is not new. They've been working on this for a long time. It's just gone to the masses, and we now have a chat interface. But it's been kind of digital transformation with a handbrake on. And you remember my opening slides of these 4 different channels. We're trying to automate one slice of the customer journey at a time. And it's messy and it's fragmented. I think we're going to get this new V2 of digital transformation, this new wave, where I can have personal AI handle things for me, a digital wallet manage the data on my behalf. I don't want to manage data. I don't really want a digital wallet. But I want the outcomes from automation, and I'm going to need those things in place to make it possible. Just check me in, right? I can have the liability accounted for in governance frameworks. I can have the auditability. I can know who's asked for what and what's been shared. And I can get real-time context and consent for data that is being used. So with that lands us near enough exactly at halfway point. So, the thing I want to leave you with is, what if on the other side of the AI is the customer with a digital wallet? And I think we can move beyond the ideas of just sovereignty, just portability, just data security. Those things are important and critical and true. But we also need incentives. We need motivations from individuals and businesses to make use of this, to adopt it. And I think, autonomous agents, I think digital wallets, credentials are going to be the kind of skeleton key to unlock this new digital economy. So that's where I'll leave it there. And would love to have a conversation with Nick and the team about this exciting future.
Yeah, very good, Jamie. Thank you so much. And I should have said at the start as well, if you want to read about Jamie, he's got, I think it's a weekly newsletter. I think, Jamie, you kind of put out on LinkedIn, and you've got your own website as well, but customerfutures.com. definitely check it out for this type of engaging content. I think as well, not only is it interesting, because I think the first time I heard this, Jamie, was in a conference last year. And as you were saying at the start, you obviously are continuing to build the kind of model and the thought process in your head. So it's definitely, you can see how you're continuing to move it on. But bits of it I definitely remember. And I really like the way you frame stuff as well. The notion of customers being APIs is really interesting framing. So yeah, it's really great to hear. So thanks for taking that time to go through that stuff. And hopefully now you're able to have a kind of half-hour grilling as well. So lucky you.
I'm this is the best bit of my day. I love talking about this stuff, and so much of this is about framing. I'm not introducing many new ideas, but I'm just trying to move us away from this conversation that, firstly, digital identity is an important thing on its own right. Especially, I wrote on this on LinkedIn the other day, like digital identity. Firstly, it's, you only ask for digital identity when you have to, because you're probably required to as a business, right? Which ruins customer friction, probably kills conversion, pisses off the customer, has an impact on customer experience. So nobody really wants to do that. In fact, in the last newsletter, I was talking about how I spoke with an airline executive a few years ago, and they said, look, I don't really want customer identity information. I was saying, oh, you've got to have a wallet with identity. They said, I don't want the identity information. It's the government that makes me collect the identity information. As an airline, I want to know if you've got a credit card and if you're going to blow up the plane. Right? And it's kind of shocking when you think about it. But actually, from a service point of view, I want as little friction as possible, and identity ruins it. So what I really want is a trusted endpoint that I can be identified and it can be embedded in a transaction, right? That's where I think this is, digital identity, wallets, and credentials means we can have really safe experiences and frictionless ones. Because usually it's a trade-off, right? I can have a really safe one, but I'm going to make you crawl through mud and remember 6-digit codes and passwords with 16 different type of characters that you get wrong and I can't remember. So we can have a really seamless experience and a safe, secure, private one. And all I'm trying to do is just change the narrative and change the perspective of digital wallets are for growth. They're not just a compliance thing. They're going to improve the customer experience for everyone.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, I think, as well, because normally when we associate with giving our data to an organization, we assume it's like bad organization. They're taking all our data because they're going to monetize it in some way. And it's, when you put it across, like you can speak into an airline who actually doesn't want it, and there'll be many like that, and we think it's them that wants it, but it's not, they're compelled to do it. So totally. Yeah, it's really interesting. And as we look at that, Jamie, like we talk about organizations that would benefit from transformation. So we talked there about maybe limiting liability for companies that are required in some cases to hold our data for periods of time. What other companies do you think would benefit from this type of transformation to moving to digital wallets and personal AI agents?
Well, let's put the AI noise to one side for a second. Because it is new, it's bleeding edge in many cases, and most of the time compliance teams can't trust it. Or we end up with the AI chatbot offering a free car or something ridiculous, which they have to stand by, which I think is hilarious. I think actually, very simply, there's probably two groups. There are group one who are doing digital transformation today and are reaching diminishing returns, right? They've automated all the things, they've centralized and analyzed all the things, and they've gone from 5% click through to 6% click through, right? They're still trying to personalize the experience without pissing off the customer. We've all been in those meetings where we're like, oh, we want to do this, but we don't want to freak the customer out about how much we know. We don't want that moment when the customer goes, how did you know that? So for all those enterprises or large organizations who are going through digital transformation, who want to personalize, who want to improve conversion, I think there's a digital wallet opportunity to engage the customer in a new way with a new channel. Now, this is going to be really hard because I've now got to get the customer to do something different, and changing consumer behavior is weapons grade hard, right? But I think the spoils, the reward on the other side are fantastic. More customer trust, better brand positioning, more seamless in journeys, improved conversion, lower risk, more compliance, more efficiency, right? I can serve more customers. So that's group one. Group two, and I'm almost more excited about this group, they haven't started digital transformation. They're probably not a digital company or they're floundering. They can leapfrog existing organizations who say they've got the best app in the App Store, right? Because the best app in the App Store is released it's got the best UI and it's exciting, but it's only for that one, it's like that one hammer, one nail. I've got an amazing app and I can engage customers, but I can only do one thing with it. If as an organization you are not yet engaging customer, maybe you're sending your emails and SMSs and stuff, neither of which are secure, as I made my point earlier. Giving your customers a digital wallet to engage with you in a new way, you can get all those benefits, more secure, more compliant, so on. But you can leapfrog those enterprises. You can compete with the big boys because you can improve conversion. You can have more trust. You can elevate the customer experience. It's going to feel like witchcraft to the customer, right? In all the tests, I've worked at a few digital wallet companies, and I've been working, the customer experience with digital wallets and credentials since 2016. All the tests, all the POCs, all the pilots. There's that moment when it happens so quickly, the customer doesn't really notice. We do demos in the conference room, and they're like, what just happened? You have to slow it down and introduce new steps. I bet you've got this at Doc when you're trying to talk to enterprise about it, right? Where you have to say, here's what we're doing, and we've just done this one tap, and now I'm in, and I've personalized it, and I've improved security. And, your stakeholders, your audience have to double take. You have to explain what's going on. We can offer that. It's going to feel like witchcraft to consumers, to customers. And guess what? We don't need to call it a digital wallet. We don't need to call them credentials. Nobody cares about that. Nobody goes down the pub and talks about authentication. If we can remove the friction, if we can make it seamless, if we can build trust, I think organizations that are having a tough time with the effectiveness of digital transformation and organizations that want to leapfrog to kind of compete with those who are doing digital transformation, I think they're the kind of audience groups that I'd be wanting to target. Yeah,
definitely interesting. And I mean, so we kind of see those major benefits there, and it sounds almost like the kind of win-win there, Jamie, in terms of there's obviously an investment and a step and an educational step that will be required at the start for organizations, but ultimately the upside is potentially massive, like you said. The customer experience will also become radically better in many different ways, controlling their own data, not filling in forms, things like that. Where do you see in all of this stuff the revenue opportunities? Is it purely in the fact that they'll have better engagement with customers? Like you've seen like the higher onboarding rates, things like that. Is that where you're seeing the revenue opportunities, or are there other aspects that you're considering?
So now we're scratching the business case, right? Or what's the investment case for this? And then we're going to get that language of ROI, right? Okay, I'm going to just, get the customer to do a new thing, or have to embed a digital wallet into my existing app. That's going to cost money. I've got to mess around with the roadmap. Why would I do that? So I think there's probably 3 or 4 buckets. Right? I think the first bucket is about conversion. And I think this is just going to be a better way to have one-tap onboarding to organizations. I think cross-sell, upsell becomes much easier. And as I said, in those certainly large organizations, maybe through M&A, they've got 2 different businesses. If you chat to most companies right now, they've got like 6 Salesforce instances, right? They don't speak to each other, and it's John, Jonathan, Jay, right? I think data harmonization across internal businesses, it's the optimization of cross-sell, upsell, and one-tap onboarding for people who already where you can give them a digital wallet. Over time, once individuals have digital wallets, then it's unicorns and rainbows, and I've got proof of ID, and I can tap on board to a new organization that I wasn't onboarded from. So conversion and kind of onboarding is one. I think customer experience is going to be another. I talked about just check me in, right? That can be automation on the individual side. We're not talking whizzy AI. This can be rule-based actions on top of a digital wallet where I've got an audit trail of who's asked for what, and I can have improved customer experiences where today I've got to go through 3 or 4 different steps, send me an SMS, click a thing, take my 6-digit code, put it over there. I can automate, right? So that might not be a top-line growth thing, more likely a cost savings or a reduced fraud, but I think there's a improvement in the customer experience that will have those knock-on impacts. I then mentioned cost savings, right? So having the customer, this is a bit of a leap, having the customer as the master data record gets really interesting, right? Why would I hold a credential or data in my digital wallet that was wrong? Like it's, top flat, not 31B, right? Or the wrong phone number. So customers are going to be self-interested to make sure they've got the correct data. And I think we can clean up not only the data we have inside organizations today, but we can harmonize the data across those, let's say, 3 or 4 or 5 CRM systems. And I think there's a cost saving and efficiency opportunity because I stop sending the wrong thing to the wrong person, and I can have a much better interaction, a lower cost interaction with the customer. Then we've got fraud. Right. So there was a study done, this will be out of date now, but it was something like 2015-16. A third of calls into contact centers were to do with identity management and a kind of account updates and so on. Not only is there a cost savings, because I can now control that from outside the firewall, but I think all those individuals who are now using bots and malware to hit the company's firewall, I can now screen them out. One of my favorite things, one of the ways I love thinking about this is with credit cards, we have card present and card not present, right? So if card is not present, it means I'm using it online. I've just got my 16-digit number. I'm putting it in. I've got the CVV and the expiry date. Card present means I'm in store. If I'm in store with a card, it might be someone else's card, might be stolen, but it's less likely to be fraudulent, right? So card present has a lower fraud rate. Card not present, there's a higher fraud rate by a couple of base points, and therefore the networks charge, the credit card networks charge more to process those cards. Why am I telling you this? With a digital wallet and a new customer endpoint, I can have customer present and customer not present, right? So I don't have to be in store, but I can be verifiably there. I can either have done the selfie or I'm presenting some credentials come from my wallet. Massively lower risk if it's customer present as opposed to customer not present. So I bought some data in, someone's entering Jamie's date of birth onto the website. Still might be me, but it's a customer not present, so it should have a much higher risk. So I think customer present as a signal to organizations is going to be much, much lower fraud. Not completely lower, not completely zero, but much lower fraud. So that was a long answer to your question about where the business benefits are, right? Revenue conversion, customer experience, cost saving, efficiency, and fraud.
Very good. And so we kind of talked, I suppose, mostly in the upside so far. We did touch upon a few challenges. I think some of those, Jamie, were around organizations needing to start getting their users maybe to undertake a different journey over time. So that would be one. But where do you see now we've looked at a lot of the positivities of doing something like this and a lot of the reasons why we would do this. What are the challenges and risks to an organization that they'll be trying to battle with as they consider their strategy?
Really great question. And it's actually at the root of a question that you and I will get every day, which is, why has this not happened yet? Such a great idea. Why is there not more investment? Why is it not being this kind of breakout moment that everyone is hoping it will be? I think a couple of reasons. The first is, with telcos, right, with telecommunication providers and broadband into your house, they have what's called the last mile problem, right? So they can get really good fast broadband fiber to your street. That's actually relatively straightforward. Getting it to everyone's house is really expensive and slow, right? So that's where 80% of the investment cost to get fiber to the house is really, really hard. So it's called the last mile problem. We have the opposite problem. We've got a first mile problem. I've got to get you to change your behavior, download a thing, receive some credentials before I've even used them, right? Get the customer to engage in some way new and then present that data, right? So we have a first mile problem. That is really hard. Second of all, this is a bit like the arrival of online banking or e-commerce in the late 90s, where I had to run the branch bank, telephone banking, and I introduced online banking. And that was more cost, right? I had to add cost to the business short term to introduce these new channels with the hope and the bet that we'd be able to move customers over, slow down the branches, reduce or reconfigure what the branch estate looked like, change telephone banking, and then people would move over. And that's taken them a long time because it's highly regulated and banks are slow. But there's, a candid and honest conversation we need to say this is going to be probably more expensive in the short term. Why would we do it? Because it builds trust. It's going to improve conversion for the 1%, 2%, 3% of your customers that go in that channel. And once the light goes on for executives, we're going to start to see investment. We're going to start to see customers move over because it's going to be better for them, right? So I think there's an honest conversation that's going to require investment in the very short term. There will be some quick wins, right? I think finally, if we start with the really hard, complex stuff like KYC, it's going to take a very long time, right? Those processes are locked in concrete for a good reason, right? If we start to play around with, those are kind of slower or lower frequency, high value things. At the opposite end of the spectrum is like high value, lower frequency, higher frequency, lower value things like coffee stamps and tickets, and right. So I think things that look like toys to begin with is going to be where some of this market is going to flourish, and then over time, once I've got a wallet and I've done my ID checks, then we can use it at the banks.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. And I'll ask you one question. The time has absolutely evaporated, and I'm keen to kind of move on to audience questions as well. So I've kind of like jumped about a little bit in terms of what I thought I was going to ask you, just to shorten a bit. Final question here, because you've talked about big picture stuff and the vision, I think is really, you've talked about that really well. So just now, kind of looking at this from a practical sense, what practical advice would you give to an organization or a business looking to start leveraging digital wallets? Interesting also, we've barely mentioned the words eIDAS 2.0 and all this, which is great, right? Because really we're just talking about wallets. But what's the practical advice, Jamie, that you would kind of point out to businesses thinking about their strategy?
So let me touch on the eIDAS point first. There's going to be 300-400 million people given the opportunity to get a digital wallet with a PID, identity information inside it. And that's going to allow them to log in, to present digital information about their identity, to hold other credentials, and to do signing, right? That is a huge undertaking, not least because it's been done across 27 member states. This is going to be, I think, a very, very big impact on the business, on the economy. But I think it's going to happen slower than we think. It's going to be possible to use it, but I also think it's going to happen gradually, then suddenly, right? Once individuals have these digital wallets, we might sign a thing here or maybe log in over there. Once organizations realize that this is a new trusted customer endpoint, I think businesses are going to start interacting in a new way, which then means we need to understand what is the customer experience, what is the commercial model around it? And I don't think we've got good answers yet on what the customer experience is going to be, what the commercial model is going to be, and how the ecosystem is going to be governed. I think from what should organizations be doing? Like all innovation, I think they should be experimenting very, very quickly, right? You need to be running experiments. You should be learning by doing. It's easy to watch some YouTube videos and have this is trend number 7 in the pack that innovation teams will have. I think getting your hands dirty with the tech, with credentials, with signature schemes, with selective disclosure, with digital wallets. Is it a separate app? Is it embedded in our app? Let's do some customer tests. Let's understand the commercial model. I think the answer is to start and to iterate quickly. There is, the elephant in the room is Apple and Google from a digital wallet perspective. What credentials are they going to hold? How does that impact our business? Do we want to receive those credentials? Are we going to issue credentials? I think it's going through the motions and working with companies like Doc and working with customer features to map out how is this going to impact my business? Because there's different roles to play, right? We can either be a wallet provider. We could just issue data into someone else's wallet. We could be a catcher's mitt. We could receive all these credentials. Maybe it's not in the format we like, so we flip them into another format we do. It's understanding what role you want to play in the market, running experiments, speaking to vendors who frankly know what they're doing, and understanding exactly what this new digital wallet flow could look like for different touch points in the organization. So I think it's experiment, it's get your hands dirty, it's speak to the experts, and frankly start to build a business case. It might be we start with conversion, it might be we start with cost efficiency or compliance. Get your hands dirty and start playing around with it and not just wait for the market to happen.
Yeah, and don't be scared of it as well.
Oh, completely.
Yeah, fantastic. So moving into kind of final section, Jamie, into kind of questions from the audience. And apologies in advance if I screw up anyone's name pronunciation. It's great to see so many people from different parts of the world, but that can sometimes come with its own challenges. Zohair, I think hopefully that's the correct pronunciation, is asking, what is the commercial model or benefit to the organization who relies on customer data for personalization specifically? So how do they kind of monetize that personalization aspect? Jamie, I know you talked about commercial models earlier on.
So now we're into what role do you want to play, right? Because it might be there's a world here in which you understand the customer already. You've got some personalization information. You could give that back to the customer as verifiable preferences. And when the individual presents those preferences elsewhere in the ecosystem, maybe there's a kickback to you because you verified those preferences and the individual could share them. So that could be a revenue stream. Now, I've made a whole bunch of assumptions about things that need to be true, including the governance, including the onboarding experience, the fact that they're verified and so on. But there are ways to think about what preferences could be. On the other hand, back to travel, window or aisle, top floor of the hotel or not, late or evening flights, baggage, that kind of stuff. Those could be portable traveler preferences. If you could give those to the individual and let them come back at different parts of the customer journey with your organization and others, you're going to be smoothing out the customer journey. And it's a bit more of a second order leap that says individuals that have that preference-based customer-centric experience are going to come back to you, because guess what? Their preference is going to be there when they come to check in. Their preference is going to be there at a later point in the customer journey. So it's not a direct, you're going to say, well, I can, if I book in preferences, I'm going to make $5 per person. I think it's understanding how those preferences are going to show up in the customer journey and what role you want to play. Again, I think it's experimentation. We don't have the answers yet. But let me say one more thing. I do think short term, the digital wallet, certainly the eIDAS argument, is going to be a RegTech compliance one. Why? Because identity is a compliance thing. If I don't have to collect identity information, I won't as an organization. It's just overhead, right? Eat into my margin. So therefore, it's a compliance thing. If we're doing identity, therefore we can smooth it out. I think it's going to be a RegTech story. Once we have wallets, then it's going to become growth and top line.
Interesting. Yeah, and on the personalization point there you made as well, I think that links back into your earlier comment about upsell. Excuse me. So if you get someone who is, booking a flight or something like that, or an agent's booking a flight on their behalf, and they're 6'5" and they want the extra leg room, often they're obviously kind of seats that charge a bit more. So there's not that personalization aspect can not only be better customer service, could also be upsell as well, I guess.
Completely. Which airline are you going to use that can remember the fact that you've got long legs and you want a personalized experience, right? Yep. The airline or the travel agent or the platform that's going to remember my preferences, and not only remember them and ask them in a survey, but then use them and improve the customer experience, reduce friction, I'm going to use them, right? So over time, it's a bit like having good culture in a business. If you do that, you get better retention of employees, better customer engagement. There are going to be some things you need to invest to prove this out in pilots, but exactly right. If we can understand preferences, retain them and use them from a customer wallet, I think that's going to be where this goes.
Fantastic. A question from Lena, I can definitely pronounce that. They are asking, what are some of the key challenges businesses might face when integrating AI into their eIDAS 2 compliance solutions?
Oof, good question. I think this is, the technology is moving faster than the compliance and regulators can keep up, is the first answer. We had cars on the road way before we had white lines, is the analogy. I think, everyone's trying to experiment rapidly with it. Trying to launch AI within an eIDAS 2 compliant framework, the answer is there are people with bigger brains than me who could better answer that. It's one of the things that the Customer Features Network is trying to do, is to find all the experts so we can point you to the right people. I don't have a kind of silver bullet answer, but I do think having AIs that have a natural person's wallet, I think is going to be very interesting, right? Having an AI that's got a legal person's wallet is more interesting, because the organization can have entities that act on its behalf, and we can tie it back to a credential that's related to the organization. How a wallet and an agent are bound together, I think, is an open question right now, and there's lots of innovation and technology breakthroughs happening there. I don't have a good answer on key management and where the wallet sits. Is it in the cloud? Is it in the agent store? How that's being worked out at the moment. But I would love to follow up with people. Get in touch at customerfeatures.com if you want to talk about it, and I can connect you to experts who have a better answer.
Absolutely. Good question, Lena. Ivan asks a more general question. What do you believe would be the trigger to digital wallet mass adoption? So we talked about that a little bit more. We talked about the initial impact or the requirement there, Jamie, being about RegTech. What do you think is going to really start to trigger this? Is it, you often hear things about the combination of government or national mixed with, private company credentials all coming together in a wallet, and you get this amazing different use cases. What do you see as the big trigger event happening?
Firstly, we'd all be very rich if we knew the answer to it. But also, I think The answer is actually a little bit non-obvious, which is, for anyone who's in product discipline and jobs to be done and, value flows and that kind of thing, we're having to solve a problem that exists that is a big enough problem to solve, right? We have to go after the expensive problems. I don't believe people are going to make money with digital wallets. I think they're going to make money because of digital wallets, right? We're not going to make money with digital identity. We're going to make money because we have digital identity and we can embed that in a flow and then improve the customer experience, lower cost, lower fraud. It's a bit of a cop-out answer, but I think we're often looking at the wrong way of thinking. Once we've got a digital wallet, it's all unicorns and rainbows and everyone will just interact and sign everything. We actually have to think about what the customer experience is and decide if a digital wallet is the best tool to inject at that moment to improve the business outcome, to improve the customer outcome, right? We have to, Steve Jobs talks about this. We start with the end outcome in mind and work backwards. We can have whizzy tech. We can cryptographically sign things in the cloud and do biometric selfies and all sorts of clever stuff. It has to be in service of a customer outcome or a business outcome. If we can do that and create value and decide with digital wallet and a credential is the best available tool to deploy that, then that's where I think it's going to win. The second point is the point I made earlier. I think it's going to move faster. There's no compelling large market event. It's going to move faster where it looks like a toy rather than it looks like heavy compliance and I've got to deal with 16 angry compliance people.
Excellent. And that was a question from Ivan. Ivan, thanks for that. Possibly the last one is from Pierce. Pierce is making the comment, eIDAS, EDI wallets look very promising. Pierce is less optimistic about state MDLs in the US. I maybe disagree on that point, but I think it looks really promising. But I think Pierce is looking for any comments about the types and future of a digital identity and wallets. So quite a generic topic there, Jamie. I don't know whether you could explore whether the question is trying to get at the thrust of, is this going to be kind of Google, Apple, Samsung type wallets versus the rest? Have you got any kind of general comments about the future of digital identity and wallets as they relate to eIDAS and MDLs?
I have lots of thoughts and none at the same time, none that people pay attention to. So look, the short version is, I think, the experience of any of these wallets is going to have to be as good or better than Apple, Google, and Samsung, like full stop. It's going to have to be better than that. Second point is Apple, Google, and Samsung, what did they start as? It was called Apple Pay, Google Pay, and Samsung Pay. They did a marketing switch. They called it Apple Wallet, Google Wallet, and Samsung Wallet, right? They know you can add other credentials to it, tickets and so on. So what credentials are they going to hold? I think tickets, yes. Identity, yes. Loyalty, yes. Payments, yes. There is a whole universe of other credentials, right? There's a very, very long tail of credentials where more value is, in my opinion, which is where I think we should be thinking about, proof of insurance, proof of customer, proof of relationship, proof of attendance. These are the long tail of credentials that I think are going to add as much, if not more value. And we should think about what the positioning should be. But the last thing I'll say about MDL, MDOX, verified credentials, W3C, all that stuff. The best tech never wins. Like decades, 50, 100 years have shown us this. The best tech never wins. The tech with the best distribution wins. What's the best distribution? It's where you're creating value, right? I would look at, final thought, which part of the stack is commoditizing? When you're going through a buy build partner, do you really need a digital wallet? Do you really need to be thinking about MDL or VCs? Like really work out which part of the stack you're going to be excellent at and kind of differentiate in the business, in the market, and then bring partners in to help you solve those, the parts of the stack that are A, commoditizing, or B, just better done by experts.
Fantastic. That's a great point to finish on. Thank you, Jamie. I know that we're pretty much out of time and you've already been very generous with yours. So I do thank you for coming on. That was 6 business growth opportunities with eIDAS 2.0 with Jamie Smith. He is the founder at Customer Futures and expert on empowerment technology. Please do check out his website on customerfutures.com. He is also on LinkedIn. I'd also like to thank the audience who put lots of great questions in there, and also for kind of showing up and making us feel like you were listening. So that's very much appreciated. So with that, we will sign off. Jamie, thank you very much for joining us, and I hope to see you again soon.
It's been absolutely brilliant. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.